Welcome in, people, to a brand new edition of the Bleav in Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks, here every Tuesday morning, live here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel and across multiple platforms on X at Bleav in Panthers, on Instagram at Bleav in Carolina Panthers, LinkedIn, and much, much more. Myself, Jonathan Stewart, the Panthers' all-time leading rusher in the house. Schuyler Callihan will make his triumphant return back to the pod here a little bit later on in the show. We got a loaded show for you today. We'll talk about the Panthers' 22-16 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. I'll give you an update on Jonathan Brooks, his injury update. We'll talk a little bit about Xavier Leggett. Around the league, we'll talk about the Bills and Josh Allen. Thoughts on the college football playoffs. Stu's boys, the Oregon Ducks, coming in as the number one seed, undefeated. His thoughts on their path to the potential national championship, and of course, keys to victory. Panthers Cowboys Sunday, 1 o'clock at Bank of America Stadium. I don't know if you're like us, but we kind of feel like we've been groomed the past 3 weeks to think that we should win this football game against the Cowboys. So it's open mailbag like usual. If you have comments, if you have questions, you can hit us up right here in the comment section, wherever you're watching this. Let's go ahead and get into it. It's Bleav in Panthers. Let's go.
Jonathan Stewart gets in, fights for more yardage. Stewart to the mouth of the goal line. Touchdown!
Wow, that's just pure Stewart right there.
That's a big-time run by Jonathan Stewart.
Welcome to Bleav in Carolina Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Do you believe? Rate and subscribe the show on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Video available weekly at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Do you believe?
And welcome into a Bleav in Panthers podcast, brand new edition here, Tuesday, December the 10th, 2024. Got about, I think, 5 games left in the season, 4 games, 5 games. So we're getting towards the tail end of the 2024 regular season, and the Carolina Panthers have turned into a fun watch, according to national media. So we'll dig into all that. A whole lot to get into on this Tuesday. We'll get into all that and much, much more. Thanks to everybody that's starting to come in through the various platforms you can watch and listen to this. The audio will be up on Bleav Podcast Network's audio streams a little bit later on today. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of everything, a word from our sponsors over at Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head over to Bet Online today and don't forget to use promo code Bleav, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. I wonder if they've got a bet up, Stu, on whether or not former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick will become the next head coach of my Carolina Tar Heels, which sounds like to me, like I don't even understand it, but it's gaining some steam. There's some smoke there, apparently. So I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense. I think we're starting to see a shift happening in just sports in general, right?
Yeah.
The value in 70 potential teams. I know there was a private equity group that was being put together to explore opportunities for ownership in college football teams, right? And so you take that aspect of it. There's a lot of money out there to be made.
Billions.
Talk about
billions.
TV. You talk about restructuring TV deals, which is the huge part of sports, right? Media rights and all that. I think entertainment, people are starting to feel and understand the value of it. You throw sports gambling into it now. Everybody's has skin in it. Everybody has something to watch the games for. When I played, I didn't really understand fantasy football, especially when people come up to me and saying, "Oh man, you ruined my fantasy football league." But now I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, it creates an excitement and a way for fans to engage and be invested into other teams and other players and become fans of certain guys, and gives certain athletes opportunity to create a brand and all that type of stuff. So when you talk about the whole scope of just football in general, we tried so hard to do the XFL, the European football, the thing, the league that The Rock explored and created, right? And it's so hard to get behind that because it's basically coming up out of the ground and basically creating a team. So it's hard to create a following and engagement with something that's brand new. But if you're able to go and tap into like a lineage, of, mom, grandpa, great grandpa, great grandpa, like this lineage of, loyalty to a program, sports programs, talk, Big Ten, Oregon's in the Big Ten now. And you look at the Wisconsins, Nebraskas, the Ohio State, Michigan, this is, college football at its finest. And if you're able to own a piece of that in the college football world, there's a lot of money to be made.
There's a whole lot about to change. Actually, my show, the Desmond Johnson show, is at 12:30 live on YouTube. Later today, I'll have David Glenn on with me. He's on with me every other week. And if there's anybody I want to ask about ACC football, it's him. So I'm glad I have him on this week. We have Jim Zoki on also later on today, too, from Panthers Radio Network. So stick around. Check that out a little bit later on after we're done with Bleav in Panthers. The question of the day in the gallery, Panthers Gal 73 wants to know, what's that blue moving circle behind Jonathan? There's like there was like a circle or something. It's gone. Oh, there it is. What is that? It's like some kind of.
I'm loading continuously loading.
I thought I was flipping at first. I was like, is it me? Am I?
You guys never seen a football frame jersey like that, where it has like this loading feature on it?
No, no, we have not. Never. Like, I've never seen it before. I thought I was like bugging out. Like, am I seeing that in my head? Right? And then somebody mentioned in the comments, like, okay, I'm not the only person who can't see it too. But yeah, I noticed it from earlier because I thought it was you, but when you move in front of it, it disappears. So it's not like your screen. You know what I mean? So like, what is going on back there? But it's all good. So let's just get into it, of course, from Sunday. Yet again, the Panthers find themselves in a situation where they are an opportunity to win a football game in the last seconds. And I have to admit, I'm getting sucked into this. Like we said last week, we were off the whole nitpicking Bryce Young thing or whatever. And I hoped and prayed that would not mean he would regress when we would say that. He did not. He did not regress. He's starting to show some cojones here, man. And who better to kind of lead this off and to talk about the growth of Bryce Young over the past month than the guy who has been changing diapers and doing that dad life thing for the first time for the past month. Mr. Schuyler Callihan in the house for the first time in about a month.
What's up, hey, Dad? Hey, Pops.
What's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
Hanging in there, man. It's been a crazy month, obviously, with the newborn, but then West Virginia had to go and fire their head football coach. So quite the last month it's been.
Plus, LaMelo Ball's out with injury, of course. Well, half the team's out with injury with the Hornets, so that's going on as well. And then the Panthers start playing to the point where, like, they become the national darling all of a sudden, losing football games, standing toe-to-toe with bullies like the Chiefs and the Eagles. And I guess they find it cute that they're playing well but still losing these games. And we talked about it last week, Stu. That was our Tell 'em Why You're Mad. Like, the Panther fans who are like, this is the perfect scenario where we're playing super great, but it's helping our draft pick because we're still losing. We're like, don't do that. Don't do that. We don't want to hear that. We want wins. Like, we're at a point where we want wins here. I'm gonna let you kick this off, Schuyler, because you haven't had a chance to bless the mic in a couple of weeks. Your thoughts on the progression of Carolina from the last time you saw us to now, which is literally kind of where this started. Because I think the last game you did with us, was it the Giants game or was it the Saints game?
I think it was Saints.
Saints game, and we won that game. And I went back, Stu, like really the past 6 weeks, we've been in games that have been decided by like a possession, like 7 points or fewer, whether we won or whether we lost it. Give us your initial thoughts on what you saw here, because previously on Bleav in Panthers, the last time we all were together, we were like, Bryce ain't it. They need to trade him, figure something out, bench him, something, whatever. And that narrative has changed since the last time you were here. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, he's definitely made a lot of strides in the last few weeks. And I think, again, it's taking that time to sit and watch Andy from the sidelines, I think did him a lot of good and probably could have happened at the beginning of the year, as I've talked about several times. Am I quite there yet to say that he's like a 10-year franchise guy? I don't know. Like I'm not doubting Bryce by any means. So don't start thinking that's what I'm going with here. Mm-hmm. But as I've stated before, I'm a guy that you need to prove me once and then prove me twice for me to believe it. How many times have we seen a quarterback either in their rookie year or maybe in year 2 they figure things out and you're like, oh, here we go. Like, this is the guy. He's going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden things fall apart, doesn't go his way. And that
Jameis Winston came to mind. Jameis Winston immediately came to mind when you said that for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah.
So I think if you're Dan Morgan, if you're Brant Tillis, if you're David Tepper, you got to at least love the position that you're in right now compared to the one that you could be in. So I think going into next offseason, you don't even think about taking a quarterback. You don't even look at signing another quarterback. You just bring Andy Dalton back as your backup and have Bryce go and again, prove not only me, but everybody in 2025 that this is his job. This is his franchise for the next X amount of years. You go help him out, get some defense, get some more playmakers, and see what he can really do. And if he can, take off, then great. If not, then we'll be having this conversation again. But I think right now, again, it's still too early for me because I don't want to dip my toe in that water and say, oh, he's a franchise guy, and then he has 4 bad games down the stretch here, and then we're like, well, wait a minute, we jumped the gun. And
then everybody's jumping on us like, see what you said back in December the 10th or whatever we got on tape.
I'm very careful to go either way. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to say, oh, this guy's a straight bum too, like, because he could easily have the greatest stretch of any quarterback down the stretch. So it's just way too early. You got to see all the data points first.
He's throwing some dots. Go ahead.
I think there's a way to put it though, right? To at least spread the positive and live within the positive, right? Instead of being in this limbo of, I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to say the wrong thing, right? Just call it what it is. Like, he's found his rhythm, right?
Yep.
His confidence is building. You can see it with his play. You can see it with his interactions with the players. You can see it on the sideline, right? When things happen, that little smirk that he has, that to me speaks, oh, he's having fun, right? He's enjoying playing quarterback. He's not just another quarterback either. I mean, if you look at the last 4 games, he's put up better numbers than a lot of these quarterbacks in the league that we've been praising for the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And so he's taking serious strides, and we can't just sit back and say, oh, that's not good enough, or that is what we expect. No, that is very hard to do, first of all, especially given his circumstances and how he's had to be so resilient over the last 2 years, with the naysayers and whatnot, and being benched.
It was bad. And he drug himself out of it.
Yeah.
That's the impressive thing to me.
That's the most impressive part of it all, right? So, he's been reading defenses quicker. He's been getting the ball out quicker. He's been making decisions in the pocket, being poised in the pocket. When he's on the run, I mean, this last game, I forgot who that was chasing him in the backfield, but he eats up people's angles. I mean, this guy is an athlete. So he's doing things his own way, and he's continuing to elevate his game. The rest of the season, how I would like to put it and how people should put it, the rest of the season is set up perfectly for him, like to continue to stack the good games, to continue to stack the performances. The last 3 games, we can sit back and say, Bryce gave the Carolina Panthers a chance to win those games. And that's what you want out of your quarterback.
Man, he's been throwing some dots. Like when we saw him last week's 1 and 2, he wasn't. I mean, simple as that. He wasn't throwing dots. He was all in his head. The snap, I mean, like the count behind the line of scrimmage was off for him. You could just tell everything was just off. And we were like, he needs to be benched. And to Dave Canales' credit, he benched him and saved the locker room. And I think that's going to be the turning point for this franchise going forward, was that moment when he benched Bryce Young, and Bryce Young being the type of guy that he is, to take it in stride. We're like, I need to get better. And he did. He actually got better. You don't really see that very often, where a guy gets benched, comes back same season, and it's just light years better than the last time you saw him. It's almost like the game slowed down for him. And there was this one throw. You guys know what I'm talking about from Sunday. I just sat here and found it on Twitter. The throw from the end zone, where I'm literally screaming like a little schoolgirl in my living room, thinking the dude's about to get sacked for a safety.
Run for your life!
Yeah, get out of there, Bryce.
He's right behind you.
I know. And then he throws it, and I'm like, oh my goodness! And he throws it. He throws it on a line. Look, so
Stepping up,
number 19 should have had him, and then he does this, and Xavier, bless his heart, hold on to the ball and get the first down. Look at the demeanor.
Look at the time and situation of that game. 3rd and 11.
Young for 41 yards.
Down,
down 6.
It's just watch. Just look at this. This was not happening at the beginning of the year. That's a safety. Easy. That completion does not happen. And look at the demeanor of the sideline. That's the thing I want to focus on. Nobody looks surprised. Nobody looks like overjoyed that he did it. They just kind of like, all right, next play. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a sign for me that the team believes in Bryce. Like, he's getting to this point. This is like the 3rd week in a row where he's had some kind of throw like this, like on that end of the field. It's a lot of growth. I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of him.
And I love that little smirk that he has when he makes plays, man.
Yeah. Like he kind of knows. Like every time this when he got drafted, he kind of had this confidence about him. Like he kind of knew he was him, but then he lost it along the way. And like that can be devastating, especially for a sports athlete. I can imagine to come in with that confidence and to lose it off of your play, to be able to re-find it and to start to get that feeling again. It changes the future of the franchise. We're sitting there thinking, do we need to draft another quarterback? Like, do we need to look at Cam Ward? Do we need to look at like starting to get Youre Sanders? What do we do with Bryce? Like we were doing all that like a month ago to now where it's like,
turn that game volume down.
Can you hear it? Probably was leaving it up. I'm sorry, I can hear it on my end.
Still on his feet, throws downfield, it's caught.
There you go.
There you go.
Sorry. For some reason, it's not playing. Sorry.
Now it's just and you at the same time.
Sorry. It's not playing on my end here. It hasn't muted. My tab is muted out, but I guess it's playing out to you guys through the.
I'm glad you brought up the clip, though, because I was actually going to say, like, this is one of the things that I've noticed, and I don't have the data to support it, but it just feels like there's been more scenarios where he's actually been throwing on the move and flushing out of the pocket. And I think that's what helps him better because, like you said, he is an athlete. He's talented. He can make those types of plays. I think he's better suited to do stuff like that than to just sit back and drop back and throw the ball. So I think just like he can continue to be that. I think that helps.
I think it's up to the offensive coordinator putting him in positions to win and be successful, right? Just like a running back. For me, when I need to get in a groove, I need load power, A gap to A gap. If you give me those types of plays, I can go in there, feel some contact, find a hole, and hit it quick. That's where I get my energy, right? Gap scheme. And everybody has their different schemes that fit their profile as far as what they can do on the field. Some guys are like, hey, I need duo. I need some outside zone, mid zones, and for Bryce, it might be those play actions. It might be those quick boots, getting out of the pocket, just that way he can feel a rhythm. And we've been seeing him come into his own, man. And obviously that last play, he just made a play. Those guys were in the backfield ready to eat him up. And he escaped. And he didn't escape just to run. He escaped with the intention of getting the ball downfield. And that's what makes him not just a guy. It makes him a really good quarterback, in my opinion. And so, again, you got the rest of the season to stack these games, to stack these, these performances, and hopefully everything just pans out for the rest of the season. We'll start winning some games.
Show this throw that Bryce had in this game also. Back in the fourth quarter as part of that drive, actually. The throw to Xavier Leggett. Or no, excuse me. Yeah, it was the throw.
Yeah, it was the same. It was the same drive, yeah.
So that would have won the game. Like they literally started in their end zone and had I think 2 minutes and 50-something seconds from off of that pass where Bryce saves it. And they get down the field and Bryce finds Xavier across and just can't keep it off the turf right there. And I was going to ask you guys, are you worried about the Xavier Leggett drops yet? Because there's been one in every game. It feels like this stretch here in the past 4 or 5 weeks, crucial drops too. That one would have won the game. And I know he's a rookie. I understand all that, but we said, actually, I think I said it last week that I'm not going to worry about it. But then this happened again this week, and I'm like, ugh, that's going to be one they're going to talk about all week. Should we be worried about it? Should we be concerned or not? Because that's kind of a question for both you guys going into it. Concerned or not with the Xavier Leggett drops?
I'd be concerned with this if if we had a veteran quarterback, because veteran quarterbacks have, short forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if this was Aaron Rodgers, he'd be like, oh my God, just, whatever. But, this is a team that is young. They're building, they got to build each other up. And I think the growing pains, they're all going to grow together in those pains. And Xavier Leggett is proved, this right here, in my opinion, this is, experience, right?
Mhm.
I think he's going to learn. I don't have to die for that ball. I'm just going to run through it.
He just ran through it. Yeah, he dove for it. He didn't have to. Yeah.
And obviously he could have still made that play, and that's what he's used to. That's his comfort level, right? And I think as, I didn't play receiver, but just to my, understanding of football and watching guys make plays over the years, there's ways to go about, finishing a play, right?
Yeah.
And for him, he's going to learn that. This is a pivotal moment in the game. The stakes are high. Playing in the NFL is not like playing college ball. The pressure just continues to stack. Every level of sporting every level of the sport of football, it just increases the magnitude of pressure. And he's going to learn to deal with that pressure. He's going to learn, in that situation, just go over there and just catch the ball. It's just pitch and catch.
Like
I'm not concerned about it. He's only had six or five drops this year.
Something like that. Yeah. It's kind of been overblown. They're just in big spots.
Yeah, man. I think people, they're pivotal drops, because I think Bryce is giving a lot of guys a lot of opportunities to make plays. And it's not just him, right? There's been multiple drops by other receivers.
Yes. Yeah. I shouldn't just pick out Xavier. It's been kind of the core. Yeah.
And so I think what people need to do is lay off of pinpointing guys as the reason why we lost. Like, stop pointing blame. Stop being a lawyer, right? Just be a fan and just look at it for what it is. We didn't make certain plays, and it wasn't just that play. If you can go throughout the whole course of the game, you can watch all the film. You can say, oh man, that defense was just a better defensive call than our offensive call. That happens, right?
Yeah.
Certain coverages that the defense matches up against our calls on offense, it was just a better call and just puts you in a bind, right? So there's certain elements to this game where, yeah, the players play and the coaches coach, but this game is like chess. It's not checkers. And it's super lazy to say, oh, if you would have caught that ball, we would
win the game. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things that happen in the course of this game that could have had a different outcome.
And we don't even know if that actually would be true. I mean, just go back 2 weeks ago. Like, we thought we had the game at least going into overtime against the Chiefs, and what
20
happened?
seconds left. 20 seconds left.
On the sideline, and and we end up losing that game.
20 seconds or 30 seconds?
20, 30 seconds. It wasn't a lot. It was, yeah. I know he did that thing. He did that Pat Mahomes thing where he runs towards the sideline and does this, and all the defenders kind of hold up, and then they're like, no, wait, come back. And then he's 30 yards down the field, and then he scores or whatever happens.
You got to take that penalty in that FedEx package on your seat on Monday. You got to hit him.
And then Pat does the Pat Mahomes flex. Like, yeah, I was going to go out of bounds, but he does that thing on you. It's like, come on, man. Like, you ain't supposed to do that. Let me ask, though, in that Eagles game, did you feel like it was the Panthers' defense causing the troubles with their passing game, or did you feel like it was the Eagles? Because there was Eagles talking like they typically do around December, apparently. I guess it's like a traditional thing now for them, for regardless if they're winning or not, they're going to start talking about problems within the locker room to the media. And they were kind of a little upset about the passing game or whatnot. Was that Carolina's doing, or was that more Philly's doing? Because
I think it's both.
I think a little bit of both, right?
It's definitely both. The first drive? It might have been the first drive. They ran a route combination where they had a flat, basically a guy in the flat, and they had a guy in the flag, like a flag route, and then they had AJ Brown hitting a deep route, crossing over the safety in the middle of the field, and what Jalen Hurts didn't do was pay attention to JC Horn. JC Horn on this play in particular, he's basically covering a little bit of the deep third, and he bites on the flag route. And typically when that happens, when you have a corner biting in deep thirds with a route going behind him, that means he's open. AJ Brown was wide open. And for whatever reason, he's sitting there in the pocket and he's got perfect protection, bro. Perfect. And he just sits there and says, I'm going to just throw it to the flat. Almost as if like, I don't want to go through all that trouble and throw that ball all the way down the field. And so you see plays like that. And you have to wonder, did he see the defense? Did he read the defense? Did he have a pre-snap understanding of what should take place and what can take place? If I see one safety deep, and then all of a sudden I see a DB hanging in a deep third, I'm going to look at the deep third corner.
There's a window there, right?
As a window if he presses up. If he bites on this one route, which is reason why it's designed that way, it's designed for that flag route, so that way it can get the attention of what the expected coverage is to be, right? He sees the coverage, boom. He jumps up. That means AJ Brown is one-on-one with the safety. He should win that, right? So
he didn't look that way for some reason.
So there was that play, and there's several other plays where, getting the ball out, just let the ball go. And there's I think that's where the frustrations are with, Smith and AJ Brown. It's like, yo, look, we're top receivers. Give us a chance to go out there and make a play. Yeah. I don't care if it looks like it's covered, throw it so that I can at least go and try to get the ball.
They're ranked like 27th or something in passing yards. And it's crazy because they're 10-2 or 11-2 or whatever they are now. All the other teams around them are like us, 3-8 or 2-9 or whatever it is. The Eagles, it's weird. They stand out like a sore thumb. Who is Brandon Graham? Courtesy says Brandon Graham has said in an interview that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are beating each other off the field.
Defensive tackle. He got hurt. Brandon Graham, 55.
Oh, wait. So
Brandon Graham.
These Eagles, man.
Wake up, boy.
Yeah, you're talking, man.
Wake up.
I wasn't even thinking about it being like I was like, who is Brandon Graham? But yeah, he's saying they beefing off the field for something that what that is. If that's
man, leave it alone, dog.
They need to stop that.
No girl.
That's the only reason why they shouldn't be at that point. Like, oh man,
too much good going on. But this is what it's like though. When it's like, you remember back in the day, you used to play Mario. You got siblings.
Yep.
You got older brother, younger brother.
No, I'm the oldest. But I had friends. Like everybody on my block had Nintendo. So you go.
Like you sitting there and you playing this game. Right, you've been playing it all night, and your friends come over the next day, and you watch them play, and they get to this level, right? And they just like, oh man, I'm about to go into this. I'm about to beat this game. I'm like, bro, you need to make sure that you sit too long in this one spot. You sit too long in this one spot, it's gonna teeter, and you're gonna fall into the fire. Right? You're trying to warn them of like these tendencies that they have that's going to end up hurting them in the long run. And the tendency, and so that's where I see this, happening. Like, oh yeah, they're winning though, right? Saquon Barkley's getting off and they're winning. Just let that ride.
It's happened last
year.
What
AJ Brown is looking at is, look, man, I'm getting older. I know I'm a dog. You got to make sure we perfect this passing game so that way when we need it, it's there and it's effective. Because right now we're not being efficient.
Didn't they just pay AJ Brown a bag like in the offseason? Didn't he get extended?
Yeah. And he didn't get a pass thrown to him until late in the second quarter.
Like, it goes back to what you said at the beginning of this pod. Like, you need to get lathered up a little bit at the beginning to get in a rhythm. You can't expect to just throw it to Devonta Smith down the field in the fourth quarter in a gimme situation when you haven't been looking at him all day. Like, that's
need them to make a play. Oh, it's my first pass, man.
Yeah.
I'm over here like stale bread.
Shannon Sharp said something similar to that too. He's like, you need me at the end of the game. I need you to get me in the beginning of the game. Pretty much something to that effect. So
you can't go up to the tee box and just expect to just go out there and shoot, under par.
Yeah.
You got to hit that driving range first.
I still haven't played a full game of golf yet. We got to figure something out in the off season. The three of us get up and play golf because I've never played other than putt.
I know if I go to the tee box, I'm going over. I'm going over. I want to put some balls in rivers and trees and houses, clubhouses.
I don't even know how to like.
As expected, man.
Fellas, I don't know that I've told y'all this. I think it was probably 2 years ago. I hadn't golfed in a really long time. I usually golf like once or twice a year. And we went up to this golf course near my hometown in Wheeling. And I had not golfed, like I said, in like a year. First hole was alongside the Ohio River, right? First shot, boom, straight into the river. Second shot, boom, straight into the river. Third shot, I was like, all right, I want to over-adjust. I want to get this straight, right? I'm not kidding you when I say I hit the ball. It went between my legs and hit a golf cart. I've never
do that. What?
Like
Now look,
I have no
didn't you
idea.
play baseball, brother?
Yeah.
I have
You got to be a better athlete than that, Schuyler.
Yeah.
Just because you tall, huh?
Yeah,
because you tall.
Might be,
You
I don't know.
might need short. You might need to get your clubs adjusted. You need to get fitted.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out in the offseason. Before we go away from the Eagles game and get into around the NFL, we got to mention Jonathan Brooks injuring his ACL, non-contact. I was telling a friend during the game when it happened, I think it was Ricky Raines, who's another Panther content creator. I was talking to him on Twitter, and I was just like, as long as I can remember, even when I was a kid, like when it was Veteran Stadium, when it wasn't even turf, it was like the old school, basically carpet on top of cement, pretty much. Even when it was that back in the day, to where it is now, where it's actually grass. But I've always felt like that field at the Link or in Philly in general just isn't a great field. Like it feels like that's always kind of been the narrative, and then to see him kind of come up the way he did, I knew instantly. It was just like, because it's the same leg. It was non-contact. It was the way he kind of fell. It was the way he felt after he got back up. He got back up, and it was a fall of recognition to me. Like, I know what this is, like that kind of thing. And I just hate to see it because he's going to miss 2 calendar years of football in his early 20s. And Stu, I know you said you had tore your Achilles at the end of a season. What's that like to miss that kind of time as a running back? Because there's certain things you can't do while you're rehabbing, right? Like in the beginning, like you got to kind of work your way up into it. And now he's about to start this process over again. And long-term Panther fans it's kind of messed up because they look at it like, well, he should be all right. Thomas Davis got through it 3 times, and look at him. And I'm like, Thomas Davis is a different character. Thomas Davis, that's not supposed to happen, like what Thomas Davis did. And yes, he did get through 3 of them, and miraculously was able to still be a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker in it. But that doesn't work for everybody. Thoughts on Jonathan Brooks, and what do you do if you're Carolina? Like, I know it's a hard question, but what do you do? I mean, you traded up in the second round to go get this guy. You're not necessarily guaranteed you're going to have this guy when he does come back from the second one. In terms of what you thought you were getting, do you look at running back in the draft going here into this upcoming season? Do you look for a vet running back to come in to pair with Chuba? Because you're still not going to have Brooks, best case scenario, until next November, next December? Because it's a year-long injury, right? So what do you do?
I don't think you look at the draft because that's a long-term thing. You want to see what you have in Brooks when he is healthy. So I think probably the easiest thing is like you've got Chuba locked up. And that's why I said, I think maybe it was the last time I was on here, like it's okay to have 2 running backs, right? Like you don't have to have either Chuba or JB. You can have both. And so I think with him,
they started the game off with Pony. They went 2 backs.
Yeah,
he did.
Brooks and
I was like,
and
yes, that was a
Chuba.
clip from earlier in the week. Like they started off with it. Yeah. Just to explain what Pony was. And I was like, oh, that's so perfect.
I think you go get a veteran back that can come in on a cheap 1-year deal that knows he's going to be playing second fiddle to Chuba. And maybe you get your power guy there. And Chuba, let me say this. I've said this in the past, like that Chuba is more of a scat back, but he can be a powerful back too. But I think you would like to get somebody that is a true power back to help complement him. And I think you could go get that for $1 million maybe.
Yeah. There is
playoff
a solution.
Playoff Lenny's still out there.
I was like, well, you know what? There's a guy. There's a guy that's actually on our roster. There's a guy on our roster we haven't talked about in a long time that might factor into this. What about Miles Sanders? Look at Miles Sanders. Of course, it looks like Miles Sanders bought himself another year on the roster. That might be actually facts. I think we all were going into it thinking, all right, well, this might be it for Miles. Like when this is over with, they've kind of shown their cards in terms of what they want to do back there. And just by the luck of fate, maybe Miles is still on this roster next year. I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I honestly think that Chuba is a complete back.
I do too. And there's not a lot of those running around right now.
He's not necessarily a scat back. He's not necessarily a power back. He's all of the above. He catches balls out of the backfield. And to my understanding, from his rookie year to now, it's night and day different as far as, his ability to do so. And so, like, you put the work ethic and all those types of things, it's no mistake why the Carolina Panthers paid this man, right? Because he is a complete package. He can block. I mean, he picked up a lot. There was a lot. If you guys will go back and watch this game, his his blitz pickup and his recognition of it coming.
Yep.
Went like pre-snap reads. A lot of guys missed that. Derrick Henry, best running back and one of the best running backs in the league. He be missing blitz pickups because he just doesn't recognize it sometimes.
Yep.
And so, his football awareness, his football IQ is up there. As far as bringing another back in, there's guys on the roster. I don't think you need to go out of your way right now to go find a solution, long term or anything like that. You got Miles Sanders. He's hurt, whatnot. You got who's the other guy?
Blackshear
Raheem.
Yeah.
Give him a shot. Give these young guys an opportunity, especially with a season like this where it's not looking good for any, extension of, for the playoffs and whatnot, unless a miracle happens with other teams. But you don't ever want to be in a situation where you're like sitting there looking at schedules and sitting there looking at, outcomes of games, hoping that you get in, right? But this is an opportunity to just continue to evaluate the depth. And that's what I'm doing if I'm the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, maybe bringing another guy just in case other guys get hurt so that we have someone on the practice squad. But Miles, again, in my opinion, Miles Sanders is a top back if given the right situation. You continue to give him, if you give him 12 carries in another offense where he can get 12 carries and be somewhat of a premier and get those, mid-zone, outside zone plays where he can get in space, you're going to see a whole different type of Miles Sanders.
Like put him with the Chiefs. Imagine him as the lead back with the Kansas City Chiefs, or even the Cowboys.
Just go back to when he was with the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
So let's not forget,
money.
we're so quick to just analyze guys and say, "Oh, he lost it." He did not lose it. He wouldn't be on a roster if he lost it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, these guys are, top tier athletes, and on the offensive side of the ball, what's very crucial to understand, the outcomes and performances come down to everything going right. A lot of things have to go right for offensive play to go well.
So I'm going to throw something wild out there. There's how many games left? 5?
5, I believe. Yeah. Cowboys Sunday at 1.
Okay, so 5 games left, and according to what I'm looking at here on my phone, Jonathan Stewart is one of the top 65 running backs in the history of the NFL. But if he were to come back and just get like 700 yards, he could pass his old teammate D'Angelo Williams in all-time rushing yards. Just saying.
Hey, got a good O-line. Got a good O-line.
you got to come back and talk D'Angelo.
That will not happen, and I'm okay with that.
I'm cool.
Hey, having the 62nd most yards in NFL history, that's pretty damn.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, that's awesome, man. That's
what it was. A 62nd.
Yep.
Ever.
Yeah, and rushing yards. Yeah, I'll tell you who you're in front of currently: Joe Mixon, Leroy Kelly, George Rogers, DeMarco Murray. Some other guys. Saquon might catch you.
Saquon gonna catch me at the end of the year.
Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Kamara. You're just behind Michael Turner, Mike Pruitt, Jamal Charles, Terrell Davis, Chris Warren, James Brooks, Stephen Davis, Larry Zonka, D'Angelo Williams, Mark Ingram, and Maurice Jones-Drew.
Man, my attorney used to drive me nuts.
Guys, man.
Yeah, there's some dudes in there.
Pretty damn good company there, Stu.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we're all Panther Nation. We're all feeling pretty. It's a weird place to be, I guess. Well, not for us because we've been in darker, places previously. So I guess we're kind of happy with it. But for the outside looking in, I guess it's a weird place to be where we're in these close games. All we asked for was we just wanted some competitive football this year. I don't think any of us really truly thought it was going to be like a 11-6 season. We win the NFC South. We go on a tear. When we just went 2-14 the year before, or 2-15 the year before, right? So, well, except for Stu. Stu really kind of was pushing the whole playoff narrative thing and all that. But we're in a place now in December where what I was dreading was that we were going to see football where we were last year, where we're being forced to sit through this 3.5-hour game because we're going to talk about it in a couple of days. And we need to watch the whole thing, and it just turns like a chore. These games haven't been chores; they've been fun to watch. I start rooting for the Panthers to get the ball in these situations so I can see what they're going to do in these 2-minute, 3-minute drills at the end of the fourth quarter or whatever, and just simply being in a position to try to go win the game and see what they do with all the youth, especially on offense. These are the games that they're going to pull back on. These are the games Detroit was going through in 2022, in my opinion. They were doing these kind of games where they were just, after they lost a whole bunch, then they started knocking on the door. And then eventually this year, they've broken through. Well, really last year, they kind of broke through the second half of last year, and it's carried over to this year where I don't care what people are saying. The Eagles are the best team in the NFC. Not after what I watched on Sunday. If we can do that to them, granted, we played the Chiefs tight too. I don't think we can do that to Detroit. Detroit's a different animal right now. I think they're the best team in the NFC, maybe the whole league. Just my thoughts. Stu, you're muted, I think. Hold on. I can't unmute.
Oh, hello. I'm back.
There it is.
Yeah, they are playing at a crazy level. And for a minute, I was thinking to myself, man, maybe Philly might be giving them a run. But after this past weekend, they got some locker room stuff they got to work through
again,
to where they can at least, you got to learn how to cope with struggles, right? And you don't want to get messy. And the difference between the Philadelphia Eagles that won a Super Bowl and the Philadelphia Eagles with this much talent that's, on the verge of messing it all up is the culture. It's the locker room, right? You look back at that locker room when they won the Super Bowl, you had guys like Frank Reich. You had guys of high quality character. And right now what they need is for those guys to step up and be vocal and shut down the noise.
Yeah.
Because if not, they're going to find themselves sitting on the couch.
Doesn't that fall on the coach a bit, you think? In terms of letting that get away from them?
Yeah. I mean, it's coach, but it's also the veterans on that football team, right? I look at the Carolina Panthers better years. That locker room had guys that would, if they smelled a fire, if they saw or sensed any type of smoke, we're putting it out immediately. You know what I'm saying? You never really heard us in, any tabloids about the locker room talking about each other.
No.
And that started with Rivera. Rivera always took the blame. We felt bad. It's dang, bro. We went out there and stunk it up, coach. It's on me. All right. But that's an example that you can follow, right?
Yeah.
It's on you. You go back and you go to the drawing board and you get better and you figure out how to, be a better teammate, figure out how to be a better man, better person, because all those things are intangible when it comes to winning football games. But I want to say something about Brooks though.
Yeah. Forgot we circled
because if you love football, man, this is a gut punch to everyone that loves football, right? This is a kid that tore his ACL in college. Very pivotal, moment in his career. And then, projections of being a high top pick, high pick and having the lineage of running backs that came before him and to be able to pass that torch on and all those types of things. And then you get an ACL tear, right? November 2023. And then Dan Morgan, puts his faith and his trust in, your resilience and your efforts of recovering, right? And then you bust your toe and you miss 10 games and you come back, and you get to play, or be a part of the team for 3 weeks. And, we see the potential. Like last week when he caught that screen, I'm like, oh, there it is.
Mhm.
That's that guy.
When he
He's gonna
trucks
be
it back there,
he's
yeah.
gonna be a guy. The stop and go action, like his ability to, burst through and break tackles, right? It's heartbreaking, bro, because you see him go down like that, and then the second time that he went down in realization, it was that moment. I know that moment all too well.
Mhm.
It's a moment of, dang, I gotta go back to work. I gotta figure out how to mentally recover. I got to figure out how I'm spiritually going to be okay, how I'm going to deal with my emotions and still be, this top tier, this top caliber person for my family, for my friends, for my teammate, for my fans. All of those types of things go through your mind when something like that happens, where like everybody else don't know, but that your season's done. And you got to go back to the drawing board, and the meticulous things that you have to do, such as coming back from a knee injury. I've never had an ACL tear. I've torn my MCL, which heals on its own. You come back, but it's a mental mind. It's a mental mind. I don't want to say the word, the F word,
I know where you're going.
It's a mind jerk. How about
There
that?
you go.
It's a mind jerk.
Like a little PG.
But, PG, you got kids out here, man.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that keeps all players up at night. You work so hard to stay in this game, to play it at a high level, and what Jonathan Brooks is going through, it takes a lot of mental toughness. And the one thing that I will say, NFL players are fighters. We're resilient. We are resilient and on a whole different level, in my opinion, to any other sport. So he's already come back from it once. He has
gonna do it again.
It takes.
And if he had to be at any franchise to do it with, Carolina, I would imagine would be one of the top ones to do it.
And a positive reinforcement of who he is and who he's. Oh yeah, reach out to Thomas Davis, because that guy is the most resilient man that I've ever come across, ever.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever come back from 3 ACL tears in the NFL, like in NFL history, except for Thomas Davis. And to come back at the level he came back at, that dude played with a club on his hand after breaking his forearm in the Super Bowl or whatever, 2 weeks prior or whatever it was. Thomas Davis was Wolverine, literally. So it's definitely possible. He's got a support system in place there, and he's got some time. So we'll see what happens with Jonathan Brooks, and hopefully everything goes well with surgery and everything else, and that his recovery.
Drink some Nirvana super water. That'll help you out.
And some Cherry Bundy, that cherry stuff we had a couple weeks back. Get him in there. Let's go around. I want to go around the league real quick before we sneak over to college football before we get out of here, because we're running up on time. Josh Allen, I know the Bills lost to the Rams on Sunday night, which was actually a pretty entertaining game. There was no defense going on, but it was 44-42, I think the final was. The Bills lose the game, but I think Josh Allen made his case stronger for MVP in a loss, and that rarely happens. And when I was watching, I was like, man, he kind of feels like 2015 Cam Newton, what he's doing, with his feet, with his arms, where he's throwing the ball, he's not turning the ball over. It feels like he's controlling games. And it reminded me of a comment that what was his name? BJ Armstrong, who played for the Chicago Bulls in The Last Dance, when he was talking about Michael Jordan, where he was after the first championship or whatever, Michael Jordan just stopped playing basketball. He got to a point where he could kind of control the game. He knew when he needed to do this, when he needed to do that. He knew when he could steal it from you. He knew when he could get to the cup. He knew when to do everything. He just would turn it on whenever he needed to do it. And somewhere around 91, 92, he just stopped playing basketball and just started playing games against people. Josh Allen is kind of, or let me ask this question to the panel. Is Josh Allen entering that level of eliteness? Because I see the word elite used on Twitter all the time. That throw is elite. Bryce Young is elite. This is elite. That team's elite. Elite, 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 elite. And we're the only ones really, it feels like we're like, there's only like 3 or 4 elite players, period, in the NFL. Like everyone's good. Like that's why you're here. But there's only a few that are like above everyone. Like we know Pat Mahomes is elite. He's proven that. He's got a shelf of hardware that proves that he is. We know Lamar Jackson's elite. He's got 2 MVP awards like in the past 4 years or whatever. Is Josh Allen there? Because we always kind of have him next, like right underneath them. Does he need more to get to that same level?
I'll put it this way. He's elite in a different realm a little bit.
It's like the that's like the Kobe Bryant thing. Are you a what is it? Are you a beast but still the same animal?
Right.
What was he saying?
Like he's not the same. He's 250, 260. Who knows how much he weighs, but he's just a big feature on the field. And that gives him the ability to do things that not even Lamar Jackson can do. Lamar Jackson can't run over people. He's not going to. Right?
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to. You can't necessarily dial up quarterback runs on the goal line and expect him to just muscle himself into the end zone. So certain features like that is where I say he's like a Cam Newton. He's a Cam Newton, right? Cam was able to do things that no one was able to do.
Yeah. A unicorn.
He's a unicorn. And I would say he is elite. And, look at the last, since 2019, 3,000 yards passing, 20 touchdowns. That was his worst year. Or actually his rookie year was his worst year, but the second year was the second worst year. After that, 4,500 yards passing, 4,400 yards passing, 4,200 yards passing, 4,300 yards passing.
Dang.
He's on his way to 3,900 yards passing, maybe 4,000 yards passing. But the efficiency that he's doing it with is what's crazy, right? His quarterback rating over the last 6 years, 85, 107, 92, 96, 92. He's playing this year at 101.9.
My God.
And then, you know what I'm saying? So, got 23 touchdowns. He's not leading the league in anything. In any categories, but he's efficient, right? Because reason why I started this off with him being in a different realm, he's able to do certain things that a lot of quarterbacks can't do, which is run for 416 yards, 9 touchdowns, right? And taking care of the ball, right? I think that's something that's very, very we underestimate that. In the level of like how many fumbles did he have, right? He had 5 fumbles this year. He's a quarterback. He's in the pocket a lot. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
He's going to get hit. He's only got 5 interceptions this year. So the efficiency in which he's playing is elite. He's been doing that for some time now. I think quarterbacking wise, he's not handing the ball over as much as he has.
That's what's
going
on.
Got 5 interceptions this year.
Yeah.
Last year he had 18 and it showed. The year before that, 14. The year before that, 15. So I think he is absolutely in the talks and deserving of being, an MVP candidate. But you already know who my MVP candidate is. Saquon Barkley.
You gonna go with the running back.
But look at this. Look at this last game, right? Jalen Hurts didn't do anything to help these guys win the game.
Nope.
He got that rush. He got a rushing touchdown because Saquon got him to the goal line.
Yeah, the tush push, which I think should be illegal. Like, do you? That's the question that.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know. Line up and figure out how to stop it. One day, someone's going to figure out how to stop it.
But I don't know how. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, it's coming. Like, the offensive linemen are just basically going at your knees at that point, and then they're just shoving them in.
You gotta go back and reverse. You gotta go back. You gotta jump over the pile and reverse suplex.
He's like, I didn't even realize that Jalen Hurts is 3rd in NFL history in like rushing touchdowns or something.
Yeah.
And like, what do they say? Like,
I'll tell you this though, He's been stealing a lot of touchdowns, is what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what
They said like 37 of them from the 1 yard line. Like,
yes,
yeah.
Saquon been stopped at the 1 yard line the most in the NFL this year. And Jalen has capitalized on all of those, right? And so just that to its own credit, right? Saquon's been stopped at the goal line and they handed back off to Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Imagine if they just handed the ball off to Saquon Barkley again.
I would
He
think
would have over 20 touchdowns right now.
I think
He would have over 220. He would have 20 touchdowns with 4 games left to go in the season. So
yeah, I just heard that stat Sunday, and I'm like, Jalen Hurts has only been playing what, like 4 years, 3 years, something like that. It's like, how's that even possible? They were like, he scored like 60 something. I think Cam Newton and Steve Young are the 2 ahead of him, I think. And it was like when they said it, I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. He scored like 60 of them, 37 of them have been from the 1 yard line. So they're just doing that tush push and getting them in.
And he's real strong too.
He is a strong dude. He's a strong guy.
He live in the gym.
The Eagles. I don't know. After leaving that game, like it's funny too. After these Panther games, when they play these teams, I kind of leave them like, I don't know. I don't know if they're that good because I was like that with the Chiefs when the Chiefs was done. I was like, I don't know. Like,
no, this is what it is. No, this is what it is, bro. Our defense is actually playing. They're playing really good defense. They're being disruptive. They're bringing pressures.
They're getting in the backfield.
Youre is doing his thing, implementing different schemes to maximize the guy's talents. I'd look at a guy like Ashawn Robinson, right? Last game he had 1.5 sacks. Like you're allowing him to, you're basically bringing him in and saying, hey, we're going to give you opportunities to rush the quarterback. Oh, great. I like that. Because when you play teams like the Eagles, you play teams like the Buccaneers, you play teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, you're playing against a quarterback that can move in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to have guys on the field that are going to disrupt the quarterback. And we've been doing that really well. Last game, we had 4 sacks. You know what I'm saying? Getting Josie Jewell involved, right? The collective effort in the linebacking crew. You send a guy on blitz, you keep a guy in coverage, and you make sure guys do their jobs, right? And it's not a coincidence, man. Like, I think, once we started getting healthy, up front, that defensive line specifically, giving guys a chance to like feel the coverage. Like I think we did a pretty good job really of covering this last game. There's a couple plays here and there, but whenever you get a quarterback that can buy himself some time, it's a long time for these guys to cover. But I don't know. I just think that we have been playing really good football and just been coming up short on the little things. And that's where, when you have a team that doesn't have, the complete roster in certain areas that you would have wanted, those little details show up in a big way, which it has for the Carolina Panthers the last four weeks.
Courtesy asks, what do you think will be the biggest focal point during the offseason, upgrading at wide receiver or upgrading the run defense? And I'm like, why not both? Because they need to do both. And I have a lot of faith in Dan Morgan in terms of I'm curious to see what he does this offseason, because he basically came away. People were trying to argue with me that, well, we don't know for sure that these players he's drafted and brought in this year are going to be like great players going forward. We know they're playing great right now. Like they're doing their roles right now. That's what they're being asked to do. And they're going to be better next year. So I have to assume that the formula he's employing to bring in these players is actually working. Like it's going to actually be a situation where he can do this again in the offseason. I do think they're going to go after a wide receiver. I think they might have to go after a vet wide receiver to be the one. T. Higgins, maybe. He's from Clemson. He's not happy in Cincinnati. He might be available, that kind of thing. Maybe they swing for the fences for that. Maybe they go into the draft looking for it heavy. But I do think they're going to look for pass rush in the draft too. But I don't even want to talk about the draft.
But that's why you finished this season strong, right? Yeah. Because you're basically showcasing what you have to offer for the following year. Look at the team that we were on when we were, what was the record? 6-8-1.
Mm-hmm.
Was that
won the division?
Math? No, 7-8-1.
7-8-1. Yeah.
And we won the division. We finished strong. And what that showed for like a lot of veterans around the league, oh, they got Cam Newton, they got a strong run game, they got a pretty good defense. They were in the playoffs. They made a push. And you start seeing those games while you're sitting at home on the couch. I'm like, man, that's a pretty good football team. I don't know why the record is what it is, but
that's what they're
pretty
saying
good
now.
football team.
That's what they're saying about Carolina right now.
And so right now, you're thinking to yourself, if you're a free agent next year, Carolina might be a place where I want to go check out.
They're building something. That's the one thing I keep hearing that quote from random people. And the people that turned first were the studio analysts on Sundays over at CBS and at Fox. Jimmy Johnson, Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, Gronk. Like those guys, they started noticing it. It's like, hey, man, something's going on in Carolina. Like they've been playing really, really well the past couple of weeks. I think the Chiefs game was what opened up people's eyes. And then they continued it for the next 2 weeks, the same kind of manner where they had the game in their hands. They could have won it. And whatever happened at the end. But to your point, I think that'll lead to growth next year. Like I'm excited for next year and seeing what they're going to do. If everyone's wondering what happened to Schuyler, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with West Virginia football right now. He warned us that there was a hire or something like
called
that.
Called the dumpster fire.
Yeah, so he's trying to keep his arms wrapped around that while he's trying to do a live pod. So I put him backstage so he can come back on. Even though we might be done by the time he gets back. I wanted to get to the college football playoffs real quick because the homie Stu, the alma mater, the Oregon Ducks, they come in as the #1 seed, the only undefeated team in this level of college football, if I'm not mistaken, coming into this. I know a lot of people are happy that Alabama did not make the college
World
football
Tide
playoff. 9-3 and whatever, and didn't get in. Miami didn't get in either. But I think what happened here? So you had 3 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams, 2 from the ACC. Your top seeds are Oregon, the Big Ten champ, Georgia, the SEC champ, Boise State, the Mountain West champ, and Arizona State, who I believe is the Big 12 champ.
Yep.
They were the top 4 highest ranked conference champions. And then you got the first round. You got some good games sitting here. Clemson, Texas, first round. Tennessee, Ohio State, SMU, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame. Your thoughts, Stu, as an Oregon Duck, sitting there with the #1 seed and seeing that you won the right to play either Ohio State or Tennessee in your quarterfinal game, when I think I don't know, something seems wrong about the way everything was ranked. But thoughts on all this? Do you like this format? Does it make you excited to watch the college football playoffs?
It does bring in a different level of excitement because you get more football, right?
Yep.
And you get more meaningful football. And honestly, we don't really know what the end result of all of this is going to be yet someday. You know, this could be the beginning of what we talked about earlier. This could be the beginning of a whole new college program, right? Football program.
Yeah.
For all of football, where, you know, we're starting to see this become a semi-pro, whatever you want to call it, right? And it's not a true playoff, in my opinion, because, you know, people don't get voted into a playoff football-wise, right? Like, I think basketball, you have the brackets and all that kind of stuff. It makes sense for basketball because it's been done like that forever. March Madness. And you can almost kind of like, there's just different levels and different tiers of, you know, credible source of whether or not this team is good, because they play different levels of teams throughout their year, right? For college football, you only get so many games. And the strength of schedules, in my opinion, absolutely does matter. The problem is that a lot of these teams are starting to get certain players that they wouldn't normally get if it wasn't for NIL. And so NIL is changing the scope of, you know, what is a credible team and what is not, you know, and it might be, I think certain teams, certain colleges might come down to coaches, right? They might just have bad coaching staffs, might have pretty good players, just bad coaching, bad recruiting, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you're going to start seeing college football change dramatically. Now, for the University of Oregon, in this whole thing with the bracket, I don't think it's fair. But I'll tell you that, I honestly think if you flip flop, hey, the number one team usually plays the worst team,
right?
And in my opinion, the worst team might be SMU. It might be Indiana. They haven't necessarily played anybody.
I was going to say Indiana because they haven't the one team they played they lost to was Ohio State. So
yeah, and so we don't have enough games to really make that call.
Right,
that's the difference between college basketball and college football. College basketball, you have multiple games where you're like, they should have won that game. Oh, but they came back and played a lot of other teams that were ranked and they won those games or whatever.
The one thing that I've seen as the whole the top 4 highest ranked conference champions shouldn't get buys, because when you look at this one, it's like, okay, Boise State and Arizona State technically probably shouldn't get a buy. Like it probably should have been SMU, the ACC champ, and I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I think it should just be the 4 highest ranked teams get the bye. Like, I think it should just be but then you're kind of dismissing conference championships. I don't know how to do it. I'm not sure how to do this because you got to.
Yeah, it's above our pay grade.
Yeah, then conference championships mean nothing. Like at that point.
I'm not. And the thing is, bro, I'm not even going to try to figure it out.
Me either.
Unless you're going to pay me to figure it out, then I put my brain energy to it.
They got guys smarter than me or you at ESPN trying to figure this out right now because 12 ain't going to be the stopping point. They're going to get this to 16. Then they're going to get it to 24. And before you know it, the whole top 50 is going to be playing in a college football bracket that's going to go till March. So, who knows?
But I'll say this, though, right, for Oregon. There's a quote from Dan Lanning. Winning a national championship let me rewind that. Winning a national championship isn't supposed to be easy. So if our path's a little bit tougher, kudos to us if we go through it and take care of business. Embrace the challenge mentality. I love that. That's
actually, we're going to stop it right there. That was a perfect place to stop the show. There's a lot of stuff going on. Panthers, Cowboys, Sunday, 1:00, Bank of America Stadium. Get out there if you can. Don't let Cowboy Nation come in here with those star flags and all that nonsense. And visitors do.
The key is the victory is to stop the run game. So that way the pass game does not try to, get opportunistic. Because that's what happened last night. The Bengals couldn't stop the run to save their life.
Yeah.
And that opened up the pass game for them.
My keys to this game, do what you've been doing the past 3 weeks. Like, literally do what you've been doing. Play aggressive on defense. Don't worry about the names on the back of the jerseys. Just worry about what we need to do. It feels like the past couple weeks we've been focused more on what we need to do stuff as opposed to taking counter punches and reacting to it. Keep the run game strong with Chuba Hubbard. You've got a top 3 running back in the NFL, in my opinion, right now, in terms of yards per carry and all that good stuff. Keep feeding him. Keep allowing Bryce to cook because I feel like Bryce is getting better and better each week. Keep going to Xavier Leggett. Like, don't go away.
Don't give up on Excel.
David Moore and all these other guys that might be dropping passes. Yeah, keep going to him because he's only get better with reps. Like at this point, it's just muscle memory to me. Like at this point, like he just needs more reps and just keep doing what you're doing. Like I feel like if you play the same game you've been playing the past 3 weeks, you will beat the Dallas Cowboys. And this is the first time the Panthers are actually favored going into this game. Last time I checked, they were favored by 1.5 or something like that. It may have moved up. It may have moved down since the last time I looked at it, but I can't remember the last time the Panthers were favored in a game.
Dallas got a lot of injuries too. So
they got a lot of injuries, and we're actually healthier than them for the first time. The opponent we're seeing, we actually got more bodies coming back. Jadeveon Clowney may be back the Sunday as well. Bryce pretty much has his full complement of guys out there in terms of offensive skill position players. So this is a winnable game. And again, for those that, you know what, because I haven't had a chance to fire it off all day.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why we messed.
For those that are still in the whole, hey, we get to keep this draft pick. We get to keep a high pick, blah, 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 blah. We just want to win a game. I want to win a game. I like the feeling of Sunday afternoon after 4 o'clock when we've won a game where I can skate into my Monday and it carries over, like that feeling, like, hey, my team won. I spent half of a Sunday afternoon investing in my team and actually won. Like that. That's a great feeling. We don't get it very often. Forget about the draft. Don't worry about the draft right now. Like this is December. Like the draft will be months down the road. Whatever pick we end up being, Dan Morgan and company will make the best of it. Who knows? Dan Morgan might trade up. You know what I mean? Dan Morgan has shown he's willing to do that. Like Dan Morgan might, who knows what Dan Morgan might do. So like, don't worry about where we might end up and that we need to pile losses and all that kind of stuff, but look good doing so. That's a loser mentality. We need to win. They need to learn how to win these games that they're losing at the end.
Gotta finish.
Finish. That's what I want. I want them to finish. And that's my key to the game. Finish the game.
You gotta make sure that when you baking the cake, okay.
We almost made it. We almost made it.
You take the cake out of the oven, okay, and you let that cake sit for a little bit. Don't just go out and take the cake out of the little pan and start putting the stuff all over it.
Yeah, it's gonna fall.
It's gonna fall, baby. You gotta let it sit, okay. And sometimes you get a little frustrated with like just sitting around, just waiting, right? You got to finish the product by letting it sit, let it marinate, whatever you got to do, and then you spread the cream.
There you go.
And right now, we're just talking about finished product. Okay.
Finished product. Finish. And what better team than Dallas Cowboys to come in here and for us to, because everyone's going to be watching regardless of what the Dallas record is. They're America's team. People are going to be watching this game.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
it's opportunity, baby.
The buzz with Carolina is like, hey, they've been playing really good, so people are going to check them out too. So I expect a large viewership of this game on Sunday. So Panthers Cowboys 1:00 Fox Bank of America Stadium this Sunday. We'll be back Tuesday with a brand new episode. And actually, by the time we get back next Tuesday, we might have coaching news on West Virginia and my University of North Carolina Tar Heels. We might have that by the end of the day. Actually, it might be why Schuyler had to run off. I need to go check Twitter real quick, see what's going on.
All right, y'all.
But we're out of here. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Cowboys, Panthers. Let's go, Panthers. Keep pounding.